Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, where the flannel shirt is our state flag, the pit bull is our state bird, and cannabis is our state flower. I am joined this evening by my good friend Jason Carney. Jason, welcome back, man. It's been a few days.
It really has, hasn't
it? I feel like I've aged about 30 years and didn't get compensated for any of it.
No, that's the beauty of capitalism, though. Shouldn't expect that, should we?
Oh boy, Jesus, man, it is it's been a week filled with bullshit votes and fucking the ultimate trolling machine that is the U.S. Congress. We had what, a $763 or $83 billion defense budget pass. Do you know the exact number on that? Because I don't want to give out an inaccurate. It's either 783 or 63. Can't remember which. Anyway,
I'll figure it out.
Pardon?
I'll figure it out.
Pretty much all your favorite people, if you have favorite people in government, signed for it. Signed off on it. Let's see. I do not want that on. Much drama ensued from the anti-BDS vote that, what was it? Like 17 people didn't vote for, but AOC, of course, did. Tulsi Gabbard did, which sparked infinite controversy throughout the world of YouTube content creators. I'm not going to remark on that particular fight. So, that's not what we do here. I will take a shot at Kim Iverson, though.
Feel free.
Holy fuck, dude.
I've got my angle here.
By all means, go ahead, because I want to pull this up.
Progressive reps defend anti-BDS vote. Carney cites Lincoln. Presley's solidarity with Jewish families. This is coming from trending topics out of some outlet. On July 23rd, the House overwhelmingly passed H.R. 246, which condemns the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, as we all know. 16 Democrats voted against the resolution, but a number of notable progressives backed the measure, including Representative Presley from Massachusetts, Ro Khanna from California. The day after the vote, they both faced criticism for their vote on Twitter. Let's see, you received praise today from Netanyahu and are shielding his far-right government from rising criticism, the young Jewish group, If Not Now, wrote to Khanna. As Jewish progressives, we are very disappointed in you and Ayanna Presley's vote yesterday. Let's see how they responded. Presley was a co-sponsor of the bill, but she surprised many by becoming the only member of the squad to vote for it. On her website, she provided the following explanation of her vote. As I noted many times before, I arrive at my decisions in close partnership with community. Today, I cast a yes vote for H.R. 246 as an expression of solidarity with Jewish families and with marginalized communities that continue to face heightened threats to their safety in this volatile moment driven by hateful rhetoric from the Trump administration. Today's vote gave us a very narrow and rushed opportunity to engage on an issue that warrants much further meaningful dialogue with the voices of all impact at the table, to say the very least. As a dedicated advocate for survivors of violence and trauma, I will continue to support a two-state solution. I am also proud to co-sponsor H.R. 496, Representative Ilhan Omar, Tlaib, and Lewis's resolution that poses any and all unconstitutional efforts to undermine and limit the rights of individuals to peacefully protest. Okay, so basically, that was just nonsense from Representative Presley. And Ro Khanna, let's see what this bullshit he had to go to. And she has a lengthy retort. I'm not going to go through the whole damn thing.
No. I mean, Ro Khanna, look, we know, or at least we should know at this point, that Ro Khanna is going to side with. Let's pretend that like any of the heads of our tech monopolies had Ro Khanna's seat, because they essentially do. I think I've read this quote on the show before about Ro, but that he's a smart man and a thoughtful man, but he's not a member of Congress. that's the seat that we give to this lobby called Big Tech. That's from the guy who wrote an expose on Apple and Facebook and Google. At any rate, we kind of know where for Roe to trot out anything almost at this point is predictable to a laughable degree, because he's made it perfectly clear that he's going to side with management whenever the fuck management really needs him to side with them.
Well, let me get your thoughts on this. This is easy for Rose because he decided to respond on Twitter. The Humanist Report came out and directly questioned Tulsi Gabbard, Ayanna Pressley, and Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna responded with, "I respect what people want to do. Nothing in this resolution infringes on anyone's First Amendment rights. I do not believe BDS, given the economic ties with Israel, is practical or would lead to peace. I will continue to speak out against new settlements and for Palestinian human rights." Now, someone responded, hashtag BDS movement has no part to play, question mark. Thank you for responding. That's pretty great. Now he responded right back with, "I respect the activism. I have a difference of opinion and think elected officials have a different role. My role model is Lincoln's approach to governance. He was not an abolitionist early in his career, but he did help end slavery."
Neat.
Thoughts?
Neat. That's great, bro. That's great.
He's fucking Lincoln, man.
Well, you either got to be Lincoln or you got to be Reagan if you want to be a respectable Democrat. You just got to pick one of two Republican presidents to idolize, repeat, and admire over and over, and that's how you become a good and respectable Democrat. I want to say I'm kidding about that, but holy fuck, man, history sort of.
I'm looking at it, and BDS is probably the least aggressive and least hateful way to bring about peace, to bring about a resolution to the two-state solution, and how Israel has been essentially an apartheid state. And these progressives, air quotes, are saying that it's somehow anti-Semitic or it's somehow ineffective or what have you. So if I'm understanding Ro Khanna's position, we should either do nothing or start assassinating, killing, destroying anything that we disagree with as progressives and leftists, because any peaceful methodology, protest, BDS, anything else, is pointless. That's what I garnered from Ro Khanna's response. And it's nice to say that with Lincoln's position, he was an abolitionist early, and he helped to end slavery. But how many people died to get from not being an abolitionist early on in your career to the end of slavery? And some would argue slavery hasn't even ended yet. But at the end of the day, we could afford to sit back here and go, well, yeah, we should try this tactic. We should try because it's not directly affecting us. These are Palestinians that are dying, that have rocks, taking on an Israeli IDS, whatever the fuck they call themselves, Israeli Defense, whatever.
Yeah, the idea.
With M16s, F-16s, surface-to-air missiles, basically American-style military capacity, taking on a bunch of rock throwers.
With walking around with T-shirts on that show a pregnant Palestinian woman, and then the fucking shirt says "1 shot, 2 kills."
Mm-hmm.
Those guys. Fuck those guys, by the way. Fuck those guys.
And again, let me be 100% clear. This in no way, anti-Semitism has no role to play in this. This has nothing to do with being Jewish. This has nothing to do with anything. I'm proud of my Jewish heritage. But at the end of the day, if you're committing crimes against humanity, it doesn't matter what you are. It doesn't matter if you're an atheist, a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist, a Shinto, whatever religion or their lack of that you may be, whatever color you may be, whatever sex you may be. None of that matters. When you're committing a crime against humanity, you're committing a crime against humanity. That is the only thing that matters. And in no way, Israel should be able to live peacefully, to be able to thrive, to be able to do all the normal things a country should be able to do without fear of terrorism or being attacked. No one's arguing that, except white nationalists. What BDS is arguing is this apartheid state under the Likud party and Benjamin Netanyahu. needs to end. It needs to stop. And they're finding economic ways to protest this. And as capitalism has been screaming from day one, if you want to make change, you have to affect the economics of it. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. Now these progressives are coming back and say, well, it's ineffectual. It's not really worth it. It's not really going to do anything. So we're going to vote against the idea of these people doing this against Israel because we're in the pockets of AIPAC.
So, okay, man, this push that the entire left is anti-Semitic, starting with Ilhan Omar and ending at Jeremy Corbyn and everyone in between. They tried once, I believe, in like the Washington Post or something during 2016 to kind of hint that Bernie Sanders might be anti-Semitic. They'll do it again. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't fly. But what this everything that anyone says is anti-Semitism is about is silencing legitimate criticism of Zionism. And we've got like Joe Biden, who yells into a microphone, you don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. I'm a Zionist. We've got, there's a great, again, Whitney Webb, but there's great reporting by Whitney Webb on the Third Temple movement and the history of American Christian dominionists and evangelicals that were pushing for Zionism before Theodor Herzl even coined the phrase and started the movement. We've got a lot of money and a lot of end times fanatics behind silencing any and all dissent or criticism of a political movement that views itself as a supremacist movement.
I'm reading further responses between Zaid Jilani on Twitter, who went on to write, Congressman Ro Khanna has referenced his grandfather being arrested with Gandhi numerous times, but with his vote for the anti-BDS resolution, he argued boycotts are ineffective and impractical. Gandhi's tactic was useful for freeing his and mine ancestors, but not Palestinians. Ro comes back with Gandhi didn't call or rely on other countries, including the U.S., to boycott Britain, nor would he have expected that. He led the movement internally. I will continue to support nonviolent Palestinian human rights activists and respect those who are activists in this country. By going with the anti-BDS vote on that, you just became a total fucking hypocrite. But furthermore, Zaid Jilani had written, what are Palestinians supposed to do to free themselves from occupation? What tactic is legitimate? If every nonviolent tool is taken away, what remains? Roe responds with, we need strong leadership in the U.S. to oppose new settlements, to speak for human rights, to push for 2 states. I believe Bernie Sanders will be able to do that as president. One, and Zaid Jilani, this is the last one I'm going to point out to. Jilani goes on further to say, one, Gandhi wrote to President Roosevelt seeking his recognition of Indians' independence despite UK alliance, so he did call on international community to help. Second, Nelson Mandela adapted Gandhi's tactics and based his calls for international boycotts on the same pattern. Ro Khanna, fair point on Mandela, and I do think the U.S. played a constructive role in India's independence precisely because of our relationship with Britain. I hope we can play a similar role for Palestinian statehood. The U.S. relationship with Israel is more like Britain.
I can't. So I don't. I'm not laughing at you, but holy fuck, dude! Like how anybody can sit through. Like I don't even know how his fucking supporters can read that and not see that this is a plastic human being rolling out fucking fake plastic talking points that as soon as you think about this shit for 2 seconds, you can't help but laugh. You can't help but fucking mock that shit. That's incredibly condescending and dismissive and typical, I guess, of not just Ro Khanna or Silicon Valley multimillionaires, because Ro is one of those. He's either the richest or second or third richest member of Congress. But my God, man, like our our politicians are all basically that that just removed from the reality on the ground.
Well, I know you said that, reading directly off of it can help you lose the audience, and that wasn't my intent. I needed to illustrate
Yeah,
what I
no.
felt was very schizophrenic language, like the Second Amendment. On one paragraph, it says this, the other paragraph says this. If you listen to what I had just read, then you're going to see that he's saying, oh, we should go the BDS route and the nonviolent
Yeah,
protest forms of protest, but they're ineffective.
yeah.
I mean, there's not much more analysis I can give than what? What the fuck are you trying to say other than straddling the fence on the Israel issue?
Ro is so used to talking out of both sides of his mouth that he dual endorsed Joe Crowley and AOC. Like, that's how just smooth the bullshit flows out of both corners. So I mean, this is pretty on brand for the guy in terms of that.
Let me be clear. Nobody else is covering this angle. Steve and I am reading directly from Twitter. This isn't CNN. This isn't TYT coming up with this analysis. I just read you his Twitter, and we just pointed out the fact that he was very duplicitous in his responses on his anti-BDS vote. So you're not getting this from anywhere else. I'm not reading from somebody else's report. We are doing this live and in front of you. So
I've basically been at work since Tuesday morning and just caught a break around noon today. So I'm kind of catching up and doing all of this for the first time.
Same here. Same here. Been working graves, doing overnights, and it's been arduous at best. But I want people to understand we're not reading other people's reports. We're doing this ourselves, and we're providing this information to you so that you don't get any bullshit from anybody's camp about, oh, this is really what this person meant, or this is really what that person meant. I'm reading the words that these people had typed out themselves or their staff members in response to this, and we're giving you our analysis so that you can carry it on and look where you need to get more information. But this is absolutely absurd, and no one else is covering how he's talking out of both sides of his mouth on this vote.
I do enjoy how the people that have, like, okay, so of course progressive media has covered the BDS vote to death, and of course they've covered the fact that these people also turned around. Most of them supported an egregiously bloated military budget. Tulsi Gabbard managed to get some of the language of the Stop Arming Terrorists Act into it. She managed to get some of the language in the no more presidential declarations of war thing. And you know, when it comes down to that, like, I kind of feel like you could still vote against your own bill knowing it would pass to be able to just stake out that claim that you're the peace candidate.
That's been
you feel the same way about the BDS stuff, but before I really want to get to this. Well, no, because now we got somebody asking for the take on the anti-BDS. So look, the legislation that was passed was presented to members of Congress at the APAC conference in May. This is a piece of lobbyist created, think tank created legislation that really, regardless of whether or not the text protects the act of protest or makes it possible, it creates a giant gaping hole for people's speech to be attacked for political purposes who say anything critical of the state of Israel, the Knesset, Benjamin Netanyahu, who's under like
Yeah.
He's under like 3 or 4 different indictments right now for like fraud and embezzlement and basically racketeering. And his most
Let me jump in real quick. Let me
okay,
piggyback on that idea. The reason why Israel's first ever coalition government failed was allegedly Netanyahu was demanding of the other minority parties that were going to team up with him to form a majority government that he be allowed to circumvent being indicted and to essentially, not be touched for these indictments. And they said no. So for the first time in Israel's history, they didn't have a government going into, I believe that they're going to have to do elections in September, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah, those are basically around the corner, and the most likely candidate to replace Netanyahu is further to the right than Netanyahu. So it's not like they're going to, as Ro suggested, wake up with a friendlier government in Israel and a friendlier government in the United States, although it was kind of him to slip in his campaign co-chair manager talking point in the middle of that Twitter thread. That was slick. That was good used car salesmanship right there, Ro.
Well, a little history too. When it comes to a quote unquote friendlier government, as Steve put, last one was probably Yitzhak Rabin in the early 90s before he was assassinated. The man
I was
was the
going to say,
genius.
what they do to him.
He was the closest to bringing the two-state solution to fruition. He is a hero when it comes to the concept of the two-state solution. He was the last prime minister who was seeking peace from the Israeli standpoint. Since then, since his assassination, which was used to help the Likud party and far-right parties rise to power in Israel, it's been one of those things where we're not going to see the Israeli population voting for someone like Yitzhak Rabin. And it's sad and it's embarrassing. And I would also like to follow that up with being of Jewish descent, having my great uncle die in a camp alongside my other family fighting on the Allied side. I have a special place in my heart, not only because of my heritage, but because of our history for Israel. I support the people of Israel. I don't support the government. And it needs to be made abundantly clear this is how the left feels, so that there's no more threats of, oh, you're an anti Semite. No. And anybody who is anti Semitic, go fuck yourself, left or right. No one likes you, jump off a bridge. But at the end of the day, when you're critiquing policy, and that's all you're doing, critiquing policy, not a group of people, not generalizing anything, not being a discriminatory piece of shit, you shouldn't be afraid of being called something that you're not. Policy is there to be debated. And that's what the left is doing. So enough with the anti-Semitic attacks.
So okay, I do really want to get to our final governmental troll here, because it's got me. It does, man. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. I did. I had retweeted somebody talking about it, but and I'll probably that day, the day this happens, it'll be At any rate, I'll probably try and do something special for it. But Congress unanimously decided to officially commemorate and mark, for the fucking record, before God and all the saints, July 30th as, I shit you not, National Whistleblower Appreciation Day. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? National Whistleblower Appreciation Day is going to be a thing that the government recognizes, while Chelsea Manning sits in fucking prison because she won't commit perjury by walking into a perjury trap. So she is now looking at over $20,000 in fines and prison time as a punishment. Julian Assange is fucking rotting in the UK's Guantanamo Bay because the United States government needs to extradite him here to prove a point that you can't whistleblow on the United States government's time.
I want to ask you something, Steve. in lining up with this, you bring it up, and I just thought of this. Could the federal government's rescinding of the ban on capital punishment, basically reinstituting the death penalty on the federal level, could that be possibly tied into Julian Assange? And from what I understood, the UK wouldn't extradite to a country that allows the death penalty. I mean, what are your thoughts on this? Because this is just recent, as in like yesterday, this morning coming out, where the federal government said they're going to be they're going to be having executions again after 16 years of essentially a moratorium at the federal level. Could there be a link in that with Julian Assange and then
No,
reinstituting
because
this policy?
they're still going to play the national security card, the espionage violations, all Espionage Act violations, all that shit. They're going to, and if they have to, they'll probably suggest some sort of joint multi-country tribunal, either in the UK or maybe in fucking Israel, you know, something like that. To where if they have to avoid personally signing an execution order, and if they can't bring him here because we have the death penalty, we'll fucking find a way around it. You know, if we're ramping up,
was curious.
I mean, we've got a lot of fucking old school hang 'em high hard asses in that Justice Department and in every fucking corner of that administration, and we have for a very long time. It's not like there are people that were really anti-death penalty or anti-execution in Obama's administration. The president himself had a U.S. citizen kill list, you know? So what we are is we're in a point where proto-fascism, actual fascism is happening out loud and in the open. And I mean, Jesus Christ, dude, Jeff Sessions wanted to bring back debtor's prison.
Right.
We still have criminal cannabis. You know, it's not like we were in some sort of relatively liberal spot in terms of how we medi out justice here.
Yeah, I was just curious because it's odd, the timing, to me, that we have Julian Assange over in the UK, and all of a sudden, after 16 years, the moratorium has essentially been lifted on executions at the federal level. I thought the timing was a bit curious.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that the federal government, the prison system, the people who, you know, make money off of incarceration and execution and shit like that. I mean, there's vested reasons for a lot of people to want that. We have a fucking president that was like, oh, no, the way you deal with terrorists is you go after their families. We got to go after their family. He said that shit casually on an interview, like, yeah, this is what I fucking do. You know, the mindset's already there.
Right.
How that plays into extradition, I really don't know. Like I said, man, these guys are law and order hard asses. So this is the lifting the moratorium is probably just something that happened because everything else fucking ridiculous and cartoonish is happening all at the same goddamn time. You know, whether there's additional malicious intent or an additional motive, there probably is, but I can't honestly say with any certainty whether or not that has anything to do with Julian Assange on that. I really don't. I still can't get over National Whistleblower Appreciation Day, though. That's like that. It's all. I asked my Lord and Savior Bill Hicks, dear William Melvin, hilarious be thy name. Show me a sign that I am on the right path, that I am not wrong when I say we live in a fucking cartoon. And I picked up my phone and I saw National Whistleblower Appreciation Day. And I said, thank you, Lord.
here's, I think you put it succinctly when you said this is the government being trolls. This is a Saturday Night Live skit. This is a skit you see on YouTube. This isn't real life. This isn't. These people are the antithesis of supporting whistleblowers. Again, you mentioned Chelsea, Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, among others. The audacity, I'll give props to whoever thought, in one of the offices and said, hey, you know what? Let's really screw with the people. Let's go ahead and make a national whistleblowers day because that would just be funny as shit. I mean, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's just run it up the flagpole and see who salutes. That'd be beautiful. From a humor standpoint, it's fucking brilliant. It's
Are they going to
fantastic.
have
If you're
Don
looking at it from a pure
Kiriakou come
comedy
out and
standpoint.
dedicate the thing? Is that like are they going to get they're going to find some other people they locked up in prison to trot out? And I gotta call him. I gotta find out.
Yeah, because this is it's literally on par with being trolled. It's literally being that one person in the favorite TV show at the time, Game of Thrones, being that one person in the comments section saying, "Hey, you know what? It really sucks," just to see what everybody else's reaction. It's a trolling. Our federal government is now officially trolling its populace.
I mean, you could kind of look at Donald Trump as the ultimate political troll in history. This is the person that the Hillary Clinton campaign forced into running against them in terms of how they directed the Pied Piper strategy and how much free time was given to Donald. Every time he said anything, it was a 24-hour news cycle until he said something even more stupid. And that man got the most coverage. That he got more airtime than he got in his career on television and film. All together.
He won Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Blue firewall states. Hillary put up literally the dumbest person on the face of the planet run against her, and she lost. This guy was a walking, talking troll. That's all he was. He had no type of talent. He had no discernible intellect. He had no capability of running one of his own companies, let alone this nation. He should have been the easiest candidate to dominate. This should have been like Mondale versus Reagan. This should have been a 50-state sweep. And yet somehow, some way, the Democratic Party found a way to lose to the Donald Trump.
So when you have to rig a primary in order to win the primary, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have to do that, and your campaign strategy going forward after you rig this primary in broad fucking daylight for everybody to see, when your campaign strategy is, we're going to abandon the working class and court suburban conservatives because for every blue collar worker we lose, we'll pick up one or two of them, and we can do that in Pennsylvania, and we can do it in Ohio, and we can do it in North Carolina. And no, you fucking can't, but you told us that's what you were going to do, and people still gave you money.
We told them at the time, Steve, I remember you and I did a show around that time and saying how stupid it was going to be with that policy and that thought process, that it would never work, and that it was going to cause them to essentially shoot themselves in the foot. And it's exactly what happened. I don't know. Nobody was passionate about that thought process unless they were like some simpleton centrist who thought Hillary and her team could do no wrong. I mean, that was
Chuck
the dumbest
Schumer
tactic
got a
on the face
definite.
of the planet.
When Chuck Schumer was rolling out that strategy in an interview, as like all of the Clinton surrogates did, there was a twinkle in his eye, and there was an additional twinkle like down here on the half moons. Like he thought it was a really good fucking idea. You would have to be intentionally separated from, let's say 99% of the population in order to believe something like that.
Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. I say that because they lost the blue firewall with the dumbest strategy, and the fact that she didn't bother to campaign in the last weeks in any of those states, to the dumbest man with the most racist, bigoted, and xenophobic positions in our nation's history, outside of who was that dipshit in the '60s? McGovern, I think.
Hey, he got fucked.
George Wallace.
Oh,
There we go.
no, no, McGovern. It was Jesus, dude. Have you ever read Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, the Hunter S. Thompson book that covers the '72 election?
I should.
It is
I
fantastic.
will.
The delightful things that HST had to say about McGovern will just make you smile all day long. And he accused, during the fucking election, Hunter S. Thompson is running around telling everybody that Ed Muskie does Ibogaine. And fucking like lots of it, and that's why Muskie was so out of control, is because he was in the depths of an Ibogaine bender, and he was probably telling the truth. But I bet it's just good shit right there. It is.
Respect goes out to HST. We need more individuals like him. I didn't necessarily agree with a lot that he had to say, but I love his worldview. I love his perspective, and he's a treasure. But this is what I'm getting at. This should have been a slam dunk election. Jeb Bush posed more of a threat to Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump did. Name any other candidate other than Ted Cruz, and they posed more of a quote-unquote threat to Hillary Clinton. Ted Cruz and Donald Trump were literally the easiest two candidates that Hillary should have trounced, and yet they found a way not to. Now, this is the same Democrat Party that's telling you to trust them, air quotes, in 2020. And they haven't learned anything from 2016. They haven't heard any of their constituents. And they're going along the same route to another electoral loss for the White House in 2020.
And
I don't know how Democrats with a straight face could say to trust them.
You've got, you've got entire media arms who are pushing a centrist narrative and centrist candidates, and these centrists in reality are all fucking right wingers. And some of them are paid like $30,000 an episode or more to push fucking garbage. I guess fucking Sarah Silverman is now doing high-end fundraisers and hanging out with Pete Buttigieg. This is the same Sarah Silverman who stood on stage at the 2016 convention and told Bernie Sanders supporters they were being ridiculous when they got openly robbed. With Al Franken, stood up there with Al Franken. the low fallen Al Franken. They've got to know that if they run another empty suit fucking warmonger piece of shit corporate moron, that they're gonna lose. Because of Russiagate, Trump has been enjoying higher and higher favorable ratings. Like, he recently just had the highest favorable to his president. The fuck is that?
Bill Weld. I wanted to follow up after this. Go ahead. You're good. Sorry about that, folks.
It's prime. It really is. Like, barring a financial collapse, if a centrist gets ran, and it won't be legitimately, there's going to be a contested convention. They're trying so fucking hard to dismiss one Bernard Q. Sanders. I can't remember his middle name. I'm sure everybody knows. Okay, I'm reading the chat too. They're trying so hard to dismiss the candidacy of Bernie Sanders, and you see a picture of like one of his rallies. They're fucking packed. There's a fuck ton of people there. The guy's got like what 2 million or fucking almost 2 million volunteers now. He's got almost a million or a million individual donors, which is fucking insane.
That can
Really,
keep contributing because they contribute at the $27 mark or what have you. They can keep contributing all the way through the primaries and into the generals, and they will, because they are dedicated to what Sanders is standing for. And that's constant supply of money to combat the Republicans come the fall. But you know what? We can't have Bernie Sanders. We can't have those millions of people that support him. We can't have that in our party, because if we have that in our party, that means our corporate and the wealthy elites won't back us. And if they don't do that, then how am I going to be able to get my kickbacks? And how am I going to be able to afford my golf membership? And how am I going to be able to afford that second house in the Hamptons? And how am I going to be able to rub elbows with Rihanna and Beyonce? I mean, I really love Bey, and you know, she got me into those fall parties and everything else. I can't miss out on that. And if I miss out on that, then Mark Zuckerberg won't like me, and I won't be popular on Facebook anymore. If I'm not popular on Facebook anymore, how are people on Twitter going to pay attention to me? And if they don't pay attention to me, how am I going to get campaign contributions? Do you see how I'm devolving?
so part of me, albeit it's the cynical part of me, thinks that these fucks saw our upcoming financial collapse years in the making. They know the planet's fucked, and they know they got bunkers, so they don't really care. Like they only have to be into it to the degree that whoever's signing their check wants them to be into it, but they've got a fucking escape plan. And we're over here going, maybe we should pay attention to some shit. Hey, you know that Jeffrey Epstein guy is just one of those pedo racketeering guys. There's a lot more, and maybe we should look at the Clinton Foundation and what happened in Haiti, and maybe the Catholic Church is just a branch of that. And oh, you know, there's like the amount of people that need to be removed from power in order for the planet to start healing itself a little bit, when compared to the amount of people that aren't responsible for that, is an insignificant amount of people. It is not a lot of motherfuckers.
Let's be abundantly clear. Both the Republican and Democrat parties have to go. Don't take our attacks on this particular area as just Democratic attacks. Ladies and gentlemen, the GOP is fascist, it's racist, it's bigoted, it's xenophobic, it hates you if you don't make within the threshold of the 1%. It doesn't care if you live or die. It doesn't care if you're alive and breathing. It doesn't matter. They don't care if your children live or die. The Republican Party hates you. So let's be abundantly clear about that.
But they love your money.
The Democrats have. You were going to say, okay.
The Democrats they love your money. They hate you, but they love your money.
Right, and the crime that Democrats have perpetuated is twofold. They haven't stood up against it, and they also practice it themselves while lying to you, saying they care about you. So the Republican and Democrat parties have to go. And we never need to be in a country that has a two-party system ever again. So we are never stuck in this position in which the minority of the country, no matter which party wins, runs this country.
Well, I mean, that's an oligarchy. That's, you know, the political parties, such as they are, function as the public relations firm for our homegrown oligarchs. You can't legislate your way out of an oligarchy.
No, sadly.
And that's what trips me out about all the people who are still participating in this vote like your vote matters process this far out, when we could be coming together as communities and taking our communal, no matter how big you think your neighborhood is, grievances to these people while they're running for office instead of giving them money and helping them. We could be surrounding them and saying, look, man, you guys need to operate differently or we're going to take over.
I think we need to just get to that point because nothing else is going to prompt people to change if they're fat and happy. And that's not an obesity slam. That's just a classic soliloquy, or excuse me, colloquialism. They are fine with making the money they're making, the security that them selling out and constantly selling out provides them. They're fine with being wealthy and being duplicitous. It's not going to bother them. No matter what we say, it's not going to change their position. It's getting to the point where voting them out of power has become almost impossible because of gerrymandering, because of elections tampering. In Georgia, there's a whole kerfluffle about the ballot situation. I'll see if I can get to it, but essentially it's one of those things where you're subtracting every peaceful means for people to vent and try to change things without violence. And the more you subtract from that equation, the more that only one solution is left. And I don't understand how they're not seeing that, or they think that they have enough protection against that. I'm not sure which is which, but they're not interested in having a peaceful
What's
solution.
the quote? It's if you take away violent revolution, only violent revolution is possible.
JFK.
Yeah. Martin Luther King Jr. said a riot is the language of the unheard. And that's a sentiment that I can certainly agree with. And I think that there's dude, look at the whole argument from the alt-right idiots is that they don't believe they're heard, even though they have all of government and fucking the police force and every fucking sports league and the most of
but
the,
they're not heard. They're the underdog.
Yeah. But the most common thing that you'll find in people who are declarative about how or underrepresented they are is that they're not being heard. What better way to be heard than to get together with a bunch of other people who feel like they haven't been heard and join arms and go surround the halls of power? Sounds like a great way to meet people and have a shared goal that you can all work towards together. And, maybe there'll be some sort of party that you can drag oligarchs out and place their heads in this object that has a little wood kind of U shape on the bottom and another little one that fits over the top of it. It's got a little space in between for a very heavy, slightly trapezoidal shape.
Yeah.
Rhombilical.
I'll sign on to that if we could throw members of the far right to the sympathies or those who sympathize with the far right as well into those strange contraptions that you speak of. I will be more than fine with that. But I was talking about Georgia, and just a real quick touch on that. Lawyers representing election integrity advocates filed a federal lawsuit Thursday, accusing Georgia election officials of destroying evidence that was ground zero for establishing hacking, unauthorized access, and potential manipulation of election results. Again, I just wanted to touch on that because they are subtracting every peaceful means of resisting and trying to change the system through nonviolent means.
And then you add that to the laws that slowly criminalize peaceful protest anyway, the amount of hoops you have to jump through if you want to organize a protest that is quote unquote sanctioned. There's the Taft-Hartley Act, which criminalized general strikes, which is real. I keep mentioning that, and I want to do an entire fucking show about it.
I'm in.
And I want Tim Canova to come on and do it. Pardon?
I'm in. I'm definitely in on that.
Yeah. Well, the Taft-Hartley Act was passed back in 1948. The Coal Wars were less than 30 years old at that point. The Memorial Day Massacre took place in the 30s. You know, we still had regular Union versus cop or Union versus modern day Pinkerton shootouts going on over this. And so what they did was criminalize general strikes.
We need to repeal Taft-Hartley.
Yes, absolutely. And as far as I know, Tim Canova is the only person who's ran for political office in the last several years that has said that out loud on a television show. And he said it on CNN in like 2015 or some shit, 2016.
You know, I was struggling throughout this show. I was struggling to figure out what our summation was. What was our show going to be about today? And it's quickly becoming, wake the fuck up, America. You're all the tools for you to peacefully try to change this nightmare, hellish landscape is being taken away from you. And you're being left with only one device in your toolbox to use. I'm astounded. The more we talk about this, the more angry I get, and the only resolution to it seems to be the exact opposite of what any of us truly want. It's insane. And people look at us on the left and they're baffled. Well, why are you so angry? Why are you so mad? Are you fucking stupid? Come on.
Well, it's again, this goes back. This is my favorite Upton Sinclair quote of all time. And that's, it's difficult for someone to understand something if their salary depends on them not understanding it. And if you're sitting around, or if you're online, if you're like an online activist or a full-time campaign organizer, or even someone who is running for office, do you think we can legislate our way out of an oligarchy? Can you explain how that's going to take place within the time frame that we have to make such a monumental shift in the way that we treat our planets and each other?
I've got a way. Do you want to hear it? Do you remember how the Soviets in World War II would force the soldiers to run up to the front line? Do you recall how they used to do that?
Yeah. The one with the rifle
trained on them.
When the one with the rifle dies. Yeah, that.
So we take the same methodology. We put all progressives in power. We stand behind them with the 9mm for every vote that has to go against the oligarchy to ensure that they actually vote that way. And this is sarcasm, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not advocating that we threaten with death our legislatures, but that's the only way I could see that would be quote unquote peaceful to enforce through the electoral system that we have, changing the oligarchy. Because any other method short of that isn't going to work. I'm just saying. No, I'm not advocating that.
Yeah, I don't. If I thought that you could achieve a political revolution at the ballot box, I would be advocating that. I would be. If I believed that that was a realistic avenue for substantive change with the same passion and intensity that I criticize the process, I would support the process, because it would be what I believed in, you know. So I understand.
The answer of corruption is too deep.
Yeah, but look, I understand the people who do believe that, because, you know, I have the same energy that I create and put out when I'm speaking against the process. And I know that there, to think that there are people that don't have the same level of passion to a subject as intense as politics as I do is fucking dumb. I'm not, I wouldn't assume that for a second. So I get it, but when I ask, can we incrementally legislate our way out of an oligarchy? They all say fuck no. Okay, so how do you square that circle intellectually then when you go out and you knock on doors and you say, hey, um, vote for this person, when in your head and online you're going, okay, it's going to be a rigged but convention. We know it is. They're already, look at this bullshit, look at this bullshit, look at this bullshit. Holy fuck, I can't believe they just did this. It makes your skin crawl. Like, you said that on TV, like legitimately pointing out how blatantly, openly rigged this process is. It's worse than 2016. It's worse than fucking I've ever seen an election, and I've seen international elections. I paid attention to that. Like, short of people in fucking masks with fucking Kalashnikovs holding up a polling center and stuffing ballots, this is some shit, And
you're a smoker. I'm a smoker. You know how when you're lighting up a cigarette, and I won't speak for you on this, but this is definitely from me. I light up a cigarette. I'm like, man, I gotta quit because I plan on quitting soon. Man, I really gotta quit this shit. The little voice in the back of my head's telling me I gotta fucking quit, and yet I'm still smoking that cigarette until I'm ready to quit. I think the people that you're speaking of that can't put the circle peg into the square hole, I think they have that going on, that little voice in the back of their head. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. But they're trying desperately because, let's be real, the alternative to peace is what? It's conflict. People will get hurt. People will be rounded up. People will die. No one is rushing into that head first. And if they are, they're fucking stupid. We do need to have the conversation about it, but I do get the mentality of those who are trying desperately and in vain, if we're being honest, to change the system from within the system. I get it. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, the Grandma Christine in the chat. Hi, Grandma Christine. Uh, vote for the hell of it. I mean, yeah, I get that, dude. I do, and I always have to couch this where fucking qualify this with, you can't have an activated and organized community if everybody has to move every year or 16 months or 2 or 3 years because they can't afford to live there. So if you can make some things happen at the local level, like rent control, if you can make some things happen at the county-wide level by voting for a community bank, let's say, or making creating fucking publicly funded centers for the arts where students can come in and learn how to play an instrument instead of learn how to stab each other or fucking sell drugs. If you can have some sort of satellite programs that offer alternative ways to live so that you can be as self-sufficient and as sovereign as possible. Yeah, do that. Go for that. If you think you can get some of that done electorally, give that shit a shot. I always vote for ballot measures and for propositions and whatnot. Always. If there's like,
but see, you're not wrong in your position either with general strikes, and it's becoming, if it isn't becoming apparent to the rest of the population, it will soon become apparent that the current way that we're doing things isn't going to resolve the nightmare, the waking nightmare that is this country, because it is set up against you. All of this is stacked against you, and it's absolutely batshit, and it's leading toward one inevitable confrontation. And it shouldn't have to be that way, but those that have benefited off the system, the wealthy, the corporations in this country, against the American worker. They have no interest in changing things up to make things a little bit more fair and a little bit more equal. So, I mean, what are the options? Again, I'm not advocating violence. No one in theory should have to die over equality, but it's going to come to that point.
So, Freethinker 59 in the chat. This will take grassroots organizing on a local neighborhood level from across the country, and leaders need to be pulled from those areas. How can that be established? Okay, dude. You don't have to yourself be a leader, but you can make yourself visible in your community as someone who wants to have a different scene going on, you know? There's multiple ways you can do that. You can, I mean, you can go and, poster your town if you want and spread like a free Assange and free Chelsea Manning, you can do that. You can, if there's like some sort of club or organization within your community that does higher profile stuff that you think you could have some influence on, or you think you could bring a couple of people into that can influence what they do within their organization, do that. If there's people in your community that have a much better, I don't know, look, criminal record, ability to not say fuck, stuff like that, than you do or than I do, encourage them to run for offices within your community. Take that shit over yourself. You don't have to personally do it, but that's how, I guess that would be how you would do it. You through your actions and through the actions of your friends, you raise the profile of the direction you want to go. You make people want to be a part of it because they see you having a good time and you have a fucking completely different way of thinking and living. Maybe that way of thinking and living is something to look into. I can't believe I fell and lead by example, but that's where I fell.
No, it's again one of those things where it's perplexing. It's boxing us into a corner, and sadly, we're left with many options. And I've been reading through the chat. Love this chat room. This is like one of the best comment sections on YouTube. Usually, I hate the comment section on YouTube. It's absolute nonsense. But this is a really good conversation that's going off into the side. So I found that really intriguing. Free Thinker 59.
I'll be right back, Jay.
How about it, El Tigre? Timbuktu, though, unfortunately, psychopaths are uniquely suited for political office. As a person with ASPD, I will never be a politician. I think what it has to do with is our blind trust of politicians because we voted for them and we gave them our blessing and we don't pay attention to them after they're sworn into office. That's, I think, the huge problem. I think if there was a way to hold every member that's elected their feet to the fire legally and force them to follow through on their campaign promises and what they ran on, then I think we would be better off in this country. I think our biggest problem is that going into election day, we vote for that person either wins or loses, then we stop paying attention. Then we stop caring until the next election cycle, which is like 5 minutes after that election has been conducted, begins. And then we start focusing on 2 years out, 4 years out, so on and so forth. It's going to take more dedication by every American to be more focused on the people that they elect and politics and policy and law. You don't have to be at our level of research, education, and other things that, we bring to the table to do this show. Sometimes 10 minutes a day, just going around on the internet instead of looking at cat videos, or instead of looking at fail videos, or just doing a little bit of research on a topic that's bothering you and that you want to know more about and that you want to advocate for. Something as simple as that could go a lot farther to enhance our current situation. I honestly don't think it has to do with quote unquote psychopath being a prerequisite to be a politician. I think it has to do with we put them in office and 5 minutes later we're not paying attention anymore. But good points, one and all.
Somebody's asking about Mike Gravel's People's Congress. And I mean, it's it's a good idea. Mike Gravel has some really good ideas. I guarantee you that's why he's not being allowed to share them on a debate stage. I think that if 50 Shades of fucking rich dull white guy can get up there on the debate stage, like they're interchangeable. Like you could replace all those guys whose names I can't remember off the top of my head, but all sort of look like they really want to give me a great rate on replacing my auto glass. Like you could put one at the other one's event, and I don't know if anybody would notice. Like if you switched out John Delaney with fucking pick one. Like, would you notice? Hickenlooper. If Hickenlooper showed up and said, "I'm John Delaney," you'd fucking believe it for at least the first 5 minutes.
Right.
And then you'd be like, "Hey, wait a minute. No. Are you but I mean, if you had them on audio, you wouldn't know.
Right.
Audio only, no idea. It could be Sacha Baron Cohen for all I know. And probably should be. It'd be funnier that way. Jesus. I know, but okay, so look, the core concept of the People's Congress is a fantastic idea. If you've watched the show before, the thing that I advocate more often than not is like actual collectives or Soviets, independent fucking communities that then have occasional joint legislative sessions with their neighboring communities. But I really don't know how I feel about a central authority. I don't know if that's anything that I could ever advocate in terms of government. I guess it's necessary if you're talking about 7 billion people or 365 million people, but is it really? I don't know. You're the more of a commie than me. What do you think about the central governing body over a series of satellite Soviet states?
One of the stages of communism is to have Soviet-style regional authorities and no central government. If we could ever get to a point in which legitimate communism is enacted, not the faux communism of authoritarians of the past 150 years, if we could follow Marx's theory of evolution, if you will, political evolution, that'd be super duper. I don't see it happening in my lifetime. I don't see it happening in the next 3 lifetimes because of capitalism's entrenchment, not only in the world stage, but also how it keeps pumping its poison into the people with materialism, with constantly trying to keep up with the Joneses, etc.
And glyphosate. Literal poison.
For now, if you want to go back to that classic founding father arguments, whether we should have a strong federal government or have strong state governments, more decentralized government. We could always have that debate. I don't trust state governments as far as I could throw them, because if you look at these abortion laws that have come through the individual states, if you look at these anti-Medicare for all that goes through the states, if you look at these red states that suck dry our federal dollars because they are putting their own people in poverty, I don't trust the state in the United States as far as I could throw it. So for me, if you have to make an argument under the current situation that we're living, a strong centralized government is what I would argue for now. But my hope, dream, and aspirations would be to go to a Soviet style, regional, autonomous, style government where it's more run at the local level as opposed to the federal level. That's not me talking out of both sides of my mouth. That's saying that current situation calls for a strong federal government. Hopefully that evolves into, if we could put enough work into it, into a Soviet-style decentralized version.
It does. I can hear you and your audio's fine, but your phone is blocking up on you, so you're mostly frozen on screen there. I mean,
frozen this way.
You do a little bit. A system as corrupt to the core on purpose as it was designed as the United States system of government, particularly at the federal level, untangling that might take as long or longer as, starting fresh. I mean, particularly if you're distributing the means of production differently, particularly if you are giving people an incentive to invest in their communities because they can afford to make their communities sustainable, rather than making them fucking slave their life away and facilitate war crimes for the health insurance, because that's just how things are.
Right.
I don't know, man. I mean, I realize that's borderline farcical to suggest it, but that's only because we live in a fucking cartoon, and fucking cartoon land where the Simpsons predict the future. We're supposed to get President Warren, right? Because that's who Lisa kind of looked like. Sort of, I don't know. They were probably going from Hillary when they wrote it, But after Trump's president, according to the Simpsons, in this fucking cartoon timeline that we live in, it's supposed to get all better because Matt Groening has a neoliberal outlook on the world. I think in the real world, where regardless of who is in the White House, it is still incumbent on the people to determine the course of the future. We as the people need to recognize this reality and pick up whatever sustainability we can muster for a future and go and handle business. But I mean, there's people who will spend 18 videos throughout the course of a 2-day period hinging on one particular statement or 3 particular votes of either their pet politician or their pet target, because that's how you get fucking clicks, right?
That's the only way.
You do a horse race show.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'd rather have the platform that we have and the ability to deliver what we deliver over any of the nonsense and regurgitated bullshit that the horse race shows do. So,
and I want to make a point back to when Freethinker was asking about what we can do to pull leaders from our community. On the Action for Assange YouTube channel, and I have just started co-hosting the Free Assange Vigils. We talk a lot about decentralized activism. And that's basically like you and a couple of your friends doing actions and then going home. Like, but documenting it, and when you go home, you post it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can, if we can make people comfortable with the idea of doing that, or if we can get some sort of reemergence in genuine activism through music, and because we lack a good, activists themselves don't lack culture or a culture, but we certainly rarely gather together unless it's to watch somebody play music, right? Or listen to somebody else tell us what we already know about our activism.
Yeah, comedians, music, entertainment of some sort.
Um, we need to bring art back into activism on a much larger scale. I know there's some out there, but fuck, there's not enough.
I strongly agree. I've always been a fan of the Banksys of the world, people who make a statement through art. I know every piece of art is a statement in some capacity, but I've always been a fan of those who takes the world around them, sees what's going on, and is able to convert that in a creative way as a response to the crimes that are being committed against humanity. It's more of that spirit that's needed, whether it be like a Rage Against the Machine making music about, or Childish Gambino, This Is America. I mean, there's a history of singers doing songs about the world around them and responding to it. But I find those that are in the arts, who sculpt, who paint, who take other methodologies and use different mediums, I don't see as much from them, and it's disappointing. It really is, because I hate to break this to artists, but you have a responsibility as well.
And here's
Every
the thing,
individual in this
dude.
country has a responsibility.
Fuck, this pisses me off too. Um, Corporate art is art without a soul. When we in this gig economy, we've got genuine artists doing fucking flash art style production because they have to have that Etsy shop, because it's the only way anyone's ever gonna fucking see their art, and they have to put on it what's fucking selling, not what's in their soul. And then they go to their other job or two jobs or whatever, and producing art becomes their third job. Not being an artist is a thing that you are, and it also happens to supplement your life, or is the thing that you do with your time and money from work because it brings you joy, or that thing that you do fucking when a couple of your friends come over and you fucking are dead ass tired, but you still have time for like 3 or 4 songs with your buddies,
Right.
shit like that. Like, not my paycheck, livelihood, my bills this month are dependent on me producing X amount of stock, rather than I'm doing my art for a living. You know what I mean?
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. And I think that boils down to the culture of capitalism. Capitalism has its tentacles in literally every aspect of our lives. And it is slowly strangling every positive component of humanity. It's eliminating it. It's turning us into machines to produce for those that own the means of production. And it's one of those things where until some dystopian George Orwellian type of landscape visits us, because that's what we've been told to look out for, we're not going to realize that we're seeing what capitalism is doing to us as an individual person and as a whole race of humanity. But I do have one thing I want to touch on before we go, And I hope you
Okay, and then we have a question or two in the chat as well.
Let's hit the question first.
Oh, okay. What do you think of Cardi B endorsing Bernie Sanders? So I think she did this in 2016 too. I think she's just a Bernie supporter.
She's
Like
consistent.
there's a lot of people within the community of hip hop that are Bernie Sanders supporters. Killer Mike's been a big part of that. He's had a lot of influence on people, and Killer Mike is an influential figure within the hip hop community as well. So if you know, there are people who have influence because they're doing genuine art and speaking outside of the narrative and actually backing their shit up in their own life. And I am not, I don't think that black capitalism is the answer to white capitalism, but I think that if you are in a situation where you can make your community more sustainable and capitalism is the only vehicle available to you, I think that you should go and fucking do that. And Killer Mike does that, you know. So if there's people that look to him, for, you know, as an influencer, and I don't know if Cardi B does or not, but you know, there are a lot of fucking people that do. And he's out there early for Bernie. You're probably going to look at Bernie. And if you like what you see, you're probably going to support him. And also, it's a fucking, I mean, it's a calculated move on her part to make such a big deal out of it. You know, she's probably got a whole audience of disaffected Taylor Swift fans that are now buying her shit.
I love it. I love Cardi B to begin with. So for me, it's a really simple equation. I love when those that are wealthy, that have come from poverty, ask people to vote in this best interest. I'll always be a fan of that. I'll always be a huge fan of that. I love Cardi B to death, and I think it's honest, it's genuine, and I'm all aboard that. I wish more celebrities would do the same.
Timbuktu asks if we've talked about Whitney Webb's Friday installment on the Epstein report. No, we haven't. We did the show Monday morning, and then we both went to work. And this is basically like the first block of time that I've had off and Jason's had off. We're going to do our long ass Sunday show tomorrow, and I would like to open with that because part 3 comes out next Friday, and it looks like is like 99%, but not 100% confirmed, that Whitney Webb will be back on Friday to talk about this. So once again,
we're covering it tomorrow. There's no question to that.
Yeah. So we'll definitely get into that tomorrow. There's been some wild shit that's gone on with Epstein too, man. You know, like locked on suicide watch. You got fucking neck injuries. They found him in the cell, you know, like all that shit, dude. Graham Elwood's out with the video, like he is not going to live and make trial. He'll, you know, like there's fucking and I got a schedule with Graham too. I was gonna have him on this week, and this week just got out of hand for both of us. He's traveling there in Vegas right now, I think, getting ready to go on stage. I've got to double check with Ron, but I think I'm going to go on Ron's show at some point this week too. Yeah. But yeah, we will fucking we will absolutely talk about that article, and I will try to confirm with Whitney about Friday, because Yeah, dude. I can't. I'm not gonna lie. I really enjoy being the first show to fucking get an interview with Whitney Webb when she drops fucking massive fucking bombs like this.
And yeah, no, I fully agree. Yeah, no, we'll be covering, just to answer Tim's question. We'll definitely be covering. I've already got the article drawn up. Steve's 100% right. Our work schedules have been batshit this week. So it's not left many opportunities to look over things, but we'll definitely be covering that in tomorrow's show.
And yeah, and we're gonna wrap for the night. I want to thank you all for hanging out with us. It is nice to be back and talking some shit and chopping it up with my friend Jason. Jason, thanks so much for doing this, man. And
always.
We're like 4 tomorrow or something, maybe.
Sounds good to me. Sounds
Yeah.
good to me.
Okay. And that's Pacific time. I've been getting yelled at from all corners of the planet for time zones and shit, especially with the Free Assange vigils. There's people that are like, can you at least post it in Greenwich Mean Time, because what does 4:30 mean if you're in the this shit like that. So that would be 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. If you're in Mountain Time, you fucking figure it out.
3 p.m. or wait, 5 p.m.
5 p.m.
Fuck it. I don't even know anymore.
And if you're in England, I think you're hosed, because that's really late.
I think, isn't it 12 hours from Pacific?
9 hours, I believe. I believe it's 9, but I could be wrong. At any rate, thanks for hanging out with us. This has been Slow News Day. I am Steve Poikinen, and good luck to us all.